You know that feeling when something breaks in Kubernetes? It's like this late night fire drill, just total panic. Well, today, we're going to change that. We're going to turn that frantic chaos into a cool, calm, and collected detective process.
All right, just picture it for a second. It's, what, 3 a.m.? Your app is totally down. The alarms are just screaming. In your phone, it will not stop buzzing. You get that sinking feeling in your stomach, right? And you're just staring at the screen thinking, where do I even begin? Yeah, that feeling of being completely lost in a storm, that's exactly what we're tackling today. We're going to learn how to confidently grab the wheel, take the helm, and turn all that chaos into clarity. We're steering this ship back to safety.
So here's the thing. The secret to surviving a Kubernetes outage, it's not about memorizing every single error code out there. No way. It's about having a strategy for the chaos. We need to shift gears, move from that gut reaction panic to a process, something repeatable and reliable that you can lean on every single time. And this is that process. It's a 6-step investigative framework. Seriously, think of it like a detective's playbook. Step 1, identify the failures. What's actually broken? Step 2, collect information. You gotta gather your clues, right? 3, mitigate the problem. This is about stopping the bleeding fast. Then, number 4, verify the fix. Did what you just do actually work? 5 is crucial. Make that fix permanent so it doesn't just break again on the next deploy. And finally, maybe the most important step of all, prevent it from ever happening again.
Okay, so we've got our strategy down, but what's a detective without their toolkit, right? So now let's open up that toolkit and look at the essential kubectl commands. These are going to be our magnifying glass, our fingerprint kit, pretty much our whole forensics lab for this investigation. And the absolute star of the show, your number one go-to tool, is kubectl. I mean, this is it. It's the command line interface that lets you talk directly to your cluster and basically ask it, hey, what's going on in there? What's wrong? All right, these 4 commands right here, they are the absolute core of pretty much any investigation you're going to do. First up, kubectl get pods. Think of this as your first glance at the crime scene. You're just looking for anything that doesn't say running. You see an error or an image pull back off? That's your first clue. Okay, so once you have a suspect pod, you use kubectl describe pod. This gives you the full backstory. And a pro tip, scroll right to the bottom to the events section. That's usually where the gold is. If that doesn't crack the case, it's time for kubectl logs. This lets you hear the application's last words, the error logs it spit out right before it died. And for those times when you really need to get your hands dirty, there's kubectl exec. This literally lets you teleport inside the container itself to poke around and check things like network connections or file permissions. Okay, strategy? Check. Tools? Check. Now let's actually put them to work. We're going to take everything we've just talked about and solve some of the most common Kubernetes mysteries. Let's go track down the usual suspects. First on our list is a real classic. I call it the case of the missing image, but you probably know it as image pullback off. You know the one. You've just tried to deploy your awesome new app, but the pod just sits there. It's stuck, refusing to start with that dreaded status blinking at you. So, what's actually happening here? Well, it's usually one of a few simple culprits. Maybe the image registry itself is down, or your cluster just can't reach it. Or, and this is super common, you've got a simple typo in the image name or the tag. Or maybe the image you're asking for just plain doesn't exist in that registry. Oops. So the big question is, how do you figure out which of those it is? Simple. You go right back to our trusty kubectl describe pod. This is the key. You check the event history at the bottom, and it will tell you the exact image name Kubernetes is trying to pull and the specific error it's getting. All the guesswork? Gone. All right, let's move on to our next case. And this might be the most frequent offender of them all. The case of the crashing container, aka crash loop backoff. This is that super frustrating situation where a pod starts and then immediately crashes. Kubernetes, being the helpful system it is, restarts it, and it crashes again, and again, and again, just stuck in this endless loop. Now, this one can be a little trickier to solve, because usually the fault isn't with Kubernetes itself. It's something with your application or how it's configured. Could be a bug in the code that makes it exit right away. Maybe the pod is running out of memory and getting what's called killed by the system. Or maybe it's just missing a critical piece of its setup, like a config map or a secret.
It could even be its own health checks, the liveness probes that are failing and telling Kubernetes to keep restarting it. This is where our investigation goes a level deeper. If you run kube control describe and you don't see an obvious infrastructure issue like an OM killed event, then you've got to look at the app itself. The next step is to use kube control logs to see what the container was saying right before it died. That log stream, that's your smoking gun. That's where you'll find the clues to crack this case.
Look, being able to solve problems under pressure, being a firefighter, that's a fantastic skill to have. But the real goal, the end game, is to stop being a firefighter altogether. We don't want to just react to emergencies. We want to become architects. We want to design systems that are so resilient from the very beginning that these fires never even have a chance to start.
So how do we make that shift? Here are a few best practices that can really help. First, always identify the right resources before you go digging. Don't waste an hour troubleshooting a service if the real problem is a pod that's not even running. Second, check those pod logs and exit codes early and often. They'll tell you right away if it's an application issue. Third, and this is a big one, always try the simplest fix first. Seriously, don't re-engineer your whole network when it might just be a typo in a YAML file. And finally, remember to let Kubernetes do its job. Let it self-heal. Sometimes the absolute best fix is to just delete a misbehaving pod and let its controllers spin up a fresh, healthy replacement for you. So let's recap. We've talked about having a solid strategy, using the right tools, and, most importantly, shifting our mindset from just fixing things to preventing them from breaking in the first place. Your detective skills are definitely sharper now. But that brings us to the final, really important question. Your tools might be sharp, but is your process ready for the next outage? Is your team's playbook actually written down? Because at the end of the day, the most powerful tool you have isn't a command. It's a team that knows exactly what to do when those alarms start ringing.